You're listening to the Medic Materials Podcast, hosted by Mike Turek, Emily Yates, and Gerard Cuomo. All are current EMS providers and educators with a combined 30 years of EMS experience. Each month we discuss EMS news, medical science, and review actual EMS calls, offering many educational opportunities to the listener. Portions of the calls have been altered to protect the privacy and identity of all involved.
Hello and welcome everyone to the Medic Materials Podcast. My name is Mike Turek, and today I am all alone. There's no one in the podcast studio here with me, and the reason being is that January, the end of January specifically, was so intensely busy for the four of us that literally we just had too many scheduling conflicts to make this work, and we were not at all going to be able to do this even via like Skype or over the internet, and we just didn't want to change the quality of the podcast by doing it over the internet. Unless the four of us could be here, Gerard and Emily and Kelsey and I, we just couldn't do it without the four of us around the table. So today is going to be a little different kind of episode. I am going to sign off here in a few seconds, but I want you guys to maintain calm. Don't freak out. Think of it as I'm going into my 487th code. I got this, okay? What we're going to be doing is Gerard and Emily and I, before Kelsey actually joined the program on the regular, we had recorded a lost episode per se, talking all about Rapid Sequence Intubation, R.S.I. And this was recorded back in December, mid-December, right around like the 10th or so. It was getting ready for Christmas, and we ended up not utilizing it. We were starting to change up our audio, and we didn't want to use it because we were changing microphones and this, that, the other thing. So the audio might sound a little wonky because you guys have gotten used to the new, more expensive microphones that we've been using. But the information is going to be awesome. Gerard has been saying, fuck the quality. These guys need to hear the audio. So this was the perfect opportunity for us to use a lost episode that I've just been holding in the bag. So we're gonna be, trudging on. We're still gonna give you content because the momentum on this podcast is there, guys, and it's all because of you guys listening and, interacting with the show. So I just want to, before we start anything, I just want to say thank you to that and to continue the awesome work that you guys are doing. You're following the Instagram at Medic Materials EDU. You guys are following the Facebook page at Medic Materials EDU on Facebook. Make sure if you're not a subscriber or a follower to either one of those platforms, make sure to go. There's great information, on those every single day. I upload literally every single day to those. The Medic Materials YouTube channel, all you got to do is go on YouTube, search Medic Materials, hit that big red subscribe button. You're going to see a new video every single Friday. And the podcast, guys, the podcast has seen exponential growth, and it's because you guys are listening. The biggest way to support the podcast growth is to rate and review the podcast. So go in, rate the podcast show, review it, leave a review, leave a comment in there on whatever podcast platform you guys use. I see them all, and tell us, this stuff is great, this stuff sucks, Mike sucks, Emily sucks, Kelsey sucks, Gerard sucks, whoever sucks, or hey, we're brilliant and we're great. Just give us your fair, honest opinion. That's all I ask, and we will try and do best by each and every one of you guys. If you want to talk to us directly, you can always email the show. Just email info@medicmaterials.com. So without further ado, guys, I hope you stay safe. You guys are going to really enjoy this. Sadly, this was before Kelsey joined the show on a permanent, and she wasn't able to, join in the R.S.I discussion. But since this episode, she has been lucky enough to actually be involved in 2 R.S.Is. So that's fabulous for her. So till next episode, guys, thank you again. And I will see you in the middle of the month. Stay strong.
Welcome to the Medic Materials Podcast. I am here with Gerard, podcast regular since the beginning, and our newest podcast regular since last month, Emily. Hi.
Hello.
I know you're so excited to be here.
I am. You have no idea.
We'll change that real quick. Dealing with us too. Well, you deal with your husband enough. It's
I was
fine.
going to say.
So today we're going to do something a little different. We're not going to do a particular call review. We're going to have a generalized discussion on R.S.I, Rapid Sequence Intubation, or other parts of the country know it as MFI, Medication Facilitated Intubation. And the first thing I think we have to discuss is the rapidness of the R.S.I, the rapid sequence intubation. In my opinion, there's nothing rapid about it. I don't know why people teach it as this should be a rapid skill. No, this is a methodical, slow process to make sure everything gets right. Now, for those that don't know what R.S.I is, that is where you use sedation medications as well as paralytic medications to sedate and paralyze your patient to be able to intubate them in a safe environment. So your respiratory arrest patients, people who are still breathing on their own, but maybe have tuckered out and are going down the respiratory arrest path, or maybe they're a trauma patient and you have to protect their airway. There's a lot of different reasons why we RSI people, but I think we have to start the discussion on the rapidness of the RSI. Your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I would say that it is a horrible name for that procedure.
Agreed.
Whoever thought it up, I get where they're at. You know, it's we want to secure an airway, and we want to do it as quickly as possible using medications. Okay, we're going to call it rapid sequence intubation. No, somebody should have called it slow your ass down. Make damn sure what you're doing first. Sequence intubation.
That's too long of an acronym. You're getting into government acronyms.
I was going to say, it's going to be like one of those government ones for the tax code or something. But no, it's true. When we do one or when I do one, I know where my stop lines are, where we actually stop, take that minute or two. Okay, sedative goes in, or the induction agent goes in, and I verbalize. I say, okay, we're stopping for 2 minutes, and everything just stops. Keep begging for the patient, whatever else we're doing, draw up some more meds, whatever. Usually I already have everything drawn up before, ahead of time. But take those 2 minutes, let your, induction agent work, put the patient under, then verify, flick the eyelashes, something, make damn sure that your patient is not going to be conscious when you paralyze them and take their right to breathe away.
Right, because now you think sedation with a paralytic is great if they're sedated properly, right? We have an under-sedated patient. Now we're taking away their way to breathe, right? Their ability to breathe is gone once we use a paralytic, but they're still conscious. Imagine being unable to breathe, unable to move, and your eyes are still open and you're conscious to the world.
And know what's going on.
And
so
know
now you're
what's
panicked,
going on,
scared.
Right? Yeah, that's horror.
Yeah, it's awful.
That is the worst, most scary thing that I think we could do as EMS providers.
No,
and it happens so often. Right.
Right.
And it happens so often. People are under sedating patients. Constantly. We see it in the hospitals. We see it in pre-hospitals. And it's another thing that we should talk about. When you bring up methodical, slow process, right? You and I have done RSIs before. I have not done one with you yet, Emily.
Not yet.
But I've been a part of multiple in both EMS agencies that allow them. And this is a 15-minute process,
right,
at least.
Easily, yeah.
The intubation is 30 seconds.
Right.
But this is a long process. I mean, the greatest gift that my wife ever gave me for EMS was my RSI card. It is a verbatim checklist on everything that you need to do. I hand that to my EMT and I say, read it. Start at step 1 And don't go past it until I say it's done, it's there, right? Have we done the beginning GCSL? Have we started the 5-minute ticks on the monitor? Have we pre-oxygenated our patient by putting high flow nasal cannula for a nitrogen washout? Have we done those things? Yes. Okay, now I can move on. Right? It is so methodical that the intubation is like, details.
Right.
It's the fourth nature to the actual R.S.I. Right?
Yeah.
The biggest thing that I always try and do is that calm in the storm, right? R.S.I. now there is a significant reason as to why you are intubating this person, right? There might be vomitus in the airway, you're suctioning, you have to protect it, there might be blood in the airway, or they might not be able to breathe anymore and now you have to breathe for them. Those are serious conditions as to why we're intubating somebody. And a lot of people would have the oh crap pucker factor because now we're going down the R.S.I. route. We were just fine and dandy, and we just took a left turn down really shit road.
Yeah.
Right? I would be nervous. Mm-hmm. I've been a part of RSIs where I'm the calm and everyone else around me are chickens with their heads cut off.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say that there's no, chaos, that, it's so methodical that everything is just, purely antiseptic and, clean and everything's done nice, with, all the, care in the world. No, I mean, you tear shit apart, you throw stuff around the back of the ambulance and whatnot, at least I do.
I don't.
Oh, I do. I'm horrible. I'm a freaking, I'm my own hurricane.
I hate that.
But you're moving with what I like to call moving with a purpose. So yeah, we're not freaking out, we're not running around, screaming, doing absolutely nothing. But you're moving with a purpose. So yeah, I'm looking at the card, looking for my weight-based dosages. I'm drawing stuff up pretty quick, but I guess for me, like I tend to have diarrhea of the mouth. So when I'm doing stuff, especially in R.S.I. in the back of the ambulance, I kind of verbalize everything I'm doing, so everybody around me can hear exactly what I'm doing.
Which I think
we
that's
should be
amazing.
doing, though. Yeah, we should be doing, because if Gerard and I are on a call, I can be doing stuff the same. I mean, there's no reason I can't put a nasal cannula in them to put some high flow on. So we need to communicate that. But I think going back to the methodical, you need to check yourself to slow down when you're doing this. This isn't the time to forget a step. This isn't the time. You're managing somebody's airway. So it's really important to take the step, go slow, make sure you have it. In the hospital, we do, I'm sure you guys have heard, the timeout for a procedure. And you just kind of make sure everything's ducks are in a row, if you will. I think that we need to bring that pre-hospitally and just, okay, are we all on the same page? What are we doing? This is where we're going to go. We're going to start at step 1. Let's go.
Yeah. And that is the exact way I look at it. Yeah. You look at it. You and I did one. I was talking, you were talking, and we did it literally on the side of a highway.
Yep.
It pulled our EMT in the back and said, you're going to be doing BLS airway stuff. Yep. You were doing meds. I was getting out all the other equipment we needed. It took 15, 20 minutes.
That's exactly what it did. Yeah.
And you and I were not quiet at all through the entire thing. It was, are we willing to intubate this person? Yes. Cool. We're in agreement.
That's usually my very first question.
Right? Is it necessary?
Do we all concur this is good for an R.S.I.? So I would look, the one time I did the one with her, I looked at her, I said, this is an R.S.I.? Yes. The other medic provider, yes. Okay, now we're good. Let's
but as an EMT, don't be afraid to speak up. For that specific one, we came up with an alternate solution, but it wasn't the best option for the patient, so we ended up going with the R.S.I.
Right.
But don't be afraid to speak up. If an idea comes in, shout it out.
Yeah, and it was considered. I mean, as soon as it was brought up, okay. At that point, we decided to go for the R.S.I. instead. But in another case, it might have been more on the other side of the borderline where, maybe we don't need to go that route.
And there was one in the previous agency I worked in where I was called in as the second medic coming into a possible R.S.I. situation. The medic needed more drugs to be able to get to the hospital, so I was more or less going for a narc pouch. right? And they were going to do the RSI when I got there. I get there, I hear the story. I'm like, what's going on? Because I want to get filled in. And I hear the story. I take a look at the patient, and I'm like, dude, I'm not there yet. Have we tried, like, I'm looking at med lists, I'm looking at the story, altered mental status and such, and I'm like, has anyone tried Narcan?
Right. Like,
their pupils are tiny, they're altered, their, respirations are low, and they're on a med. Oh, but, the facility didn't say they overdosed the guy. Well, of course they're not going to say they overdosed the guy, right? So I was like, why don't we try it? Can't hurt.
Right.
Gave him 2 a Narcan. Guy woke right up. No RSI.
Yep.
And I felt bad because the other 2 providers are like, oh, well, you killed my fun. I'm like, yes, I did, but betterment of the patient. They didn't need it.
And think of how many more resources we have now. I mean, back in the day, we just used to intubate everybody. We have CPAP now. Right. I mean, we can still nasally intubate. There's other options that we can do before we take their ability for themselves to breathe.
And I want to touch on that because she said something that 99% of providers don't think about: nasal intubation. Yeah. Right? At least in this state, we still have access to nasal intubations. Absolutely. Before people fall off the I can't breathe from my own route. Yep. No one thinks about it. Mm-hmm. I've been there where I've RSI'd someone and I come home and I tell my wife, hey, cool. She's like, why didn't you just intubate them beforehand? I'm like, what do you mean? Well, they were still breathing. Like, oh.
And it gets to the, it's the shiny new toy. It's our new skill. It's high adrenaline. We want to do it, but is it really the best for the patient? I'm going to try and let the patient breathe for themselves as long as it's safe for them to do.
Yeah, and I mean, hand raised. I had one in particular where I could not get the other medic to, do an RSI, and I just ran as fast as I could with a BLS airway and bagged the whole way. The thought of nasally intubating never crossed my mind.
Right.
Until later when someone said, hey, did you think about nasally intubating? I'm like, shit.
But providers, they forget. I mean, what did we do before RSI or MFI was around? Before we were able to do it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And if you're, you have really not been in EMS all that long, where I've seen providers nasally intubate people when I was an EMT, and it doesn't even, like, I've been there, I've seen it.
And every place I've worked has had some form of RSI. The first place where I worked as an EMT and a paramedic had MFI. The other place I worked that had no RSI capability whatsoever, but we had a air medical base like within sight of our station. So
they just did it.
It was, hey, we're coming to you, and they meet us outside the hangar and do the RSI themselves. Yep. So I never really had, I did kind of have RSI. I always kind of had it at my fingertips, and then where I work now, same thing. I have it at my fingertips. I can do it myself. So I've never really been in that situation where I don't have access to it and I need to think of something else.
Right. And I think more agencies are going that route. Mm-hmm. Where we work, there's 5 or 6 agencies in the county, but a majority of them don't do RSI. There's only 2 in the county that does it. And that's interesting because there's no partnerships. There's no like, hey, I work for one agency, but I'm RSI credentialed, and you work for, a different agency that doesn't have it. Why can't we work together? Yeah. You can come do mine, like air medical. But most companies are like, wow, that's way too much legal. I'm not getting in that boat. And that's okay. I think it'll change 10, 15 years down the road. Yeah. Ultimately, I think everyone's going to have RSI, or no paramedics are going to be able to intubate. I think that's one of the 2 routes it's going to go.
And
there's going to be no gray area middle ground.
And there are people banging the drum to take intubation away.
And why is that, though?
Because we suck.
Because we suck, right? and this, the 3 of us, literally, before we started this, we're having an EMS discussion on how much we suck and why EMS doesn't do anything to improve it. Mm-hmm. And that's why I always say EMS deserves what we get. If we deserve, or if we get no intubation, it's because we chose that route, because we were 1 in 10 in intubation records, and we took 45 minutes to intubate one person, sitting in the airway watching their sat go down to 43 before we get it.
Or we have providers who just don't do it, period. And,
Right.
The hospital's 5 minutes away. Why bother?
I'm just going to let the hospital do
let
it.
the hospital do it.
Yep. And there's been providers, again, not knocking certain people, but there's been providers that are like, nope, I'm never doing it, no matter how close or how far. I just choose not to do it. It's too scary. I understand that mentality, but I also don't. Like, I get that this is something, it's a big deal to paralyze somebody to the point where they can't control their own actions. And then knowing that paralytic's going to be in their system for, you use sucks, it's going to be in there 10, 15 minutes. You use rocker vec, you're looking at a half an hour to 45 minutes of no breathing. You miss, you are bagging that patient wherever you're going.
Yeah. And I mean, I get for a new paramedic, I can understand it more. I can definitely understand that it is suddenly you're out there and there is no safety net under you, and you're just like, holy shit, now this is my show. And I can understand it more for someone who maybe is on the cusp of doing their very first one. But beyond that, I don't necessarily take the fear excuse. I think, especially from more seasoned providers, I tend to think it's more of a complacency or sometimes even just
even
they
for
checked out,
But even for the more older providers that have been around a little longer, I respect that that you're not comfortable with it and you recognize it, but then do something about it.
Yeah.
Right.
Be better at it.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
Do what you have to do to get better at it, to get more comfortable with it, to know your drugs, to know. I mean, that's just a poor excuse. That.
Right. No,
and I've seen it more so. It's actually the flip. I see the young, super paramedics.
Almost too eager to do it.
I got R.S.I. Remember the one guy, super ketamine guy in our on our medic class, right?
Right.
He was gonna go out and he was gonna give ketamine to everybody, and he was gonna R.S.I. everybody with ketamine, right? He was. And I still don't think he's given ketamine or R.S.I. anybody. But I think the people coming right out of medic school that get their R.S.I. card, they're like, boom, I'm going to use R.S.I. on my next call. I don't care, toe pain, boom, you're getting a tube. Whereas the old salty curmudgeons are like, yeah, fuck that.
Yeah.
Like, I want no part of that. Right. I don't even want to intubate people. I don't even want to be here anymore.
Right.
Like, I'm just waiting for my card to expire so I can leave.
Right.
And I think we need to get with those people, improve their skills, improve their, they're trained to do it because you have to be with the agencies, but they just choose not to do it. In my opinion, that's like being given CPAP, but being like, yep, nope, sorry, not going to do it.
Right.
I just don't understand it.
It's a tool in the quiver, it's just another arrow we can use. And it should be looked at that as, the tool of last resort. I think we've talked about that before. R.S.I. should never be the first, thing to dive towards. That being said, of course, he and I have had a call where, I'm banging the drum. Hey, we need R.S.I. Forget all this other protocol shit. We got R.S.I. And and he was the voice of reason where it was no. Let's take that moment and we still gotta do CPAP.
Let's put our ducks in a row.
Yeah, we still gotta do all this other stuff and then it didn't work, and we're like, all right, we're fucking R.S.I.
And bringing that call up, I think that's one of those great decision-making calls. We talked about decision-making last month in the fact that, yes, you and I sat there. I was coming in as the third paramedic on the scene.
Yeah.
Right?
I forgot about that.
Now we have status paramedicus and an EMT, and I'm going, okay, here's what they got. Here's me looking at the global picture. Most of the time, the primary medic is looking at the little picture. Yeah. They're not looking at the bigger picture. That's why second, third medics are sometimes really helpful. Not saying that, again, we got to R.S.I. in the long run anyway. I don't think going R.S.I. immediately was wrong. I also don't think that waiting out and going the 3 duo nebs, the Versed for anxiety, the mag that we gave, the Decadron that we gave, the CPAP that we tried, all of that stuff. Maybe one of them actually worked.
Right. And we could have avoided having to stick the tube down.
And we could have avoided it. That was my thinking. It was just 2 different decision plans. Yeah. I don't think either one of them were wrong, because I think a lot of people, if I didn't show up and ruin the R.S.I, you and the other medic would have done it.
Probably.
Boom, done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, you bring up there's 2 and 3 providers on these calls, but include the EMT. You're still part of the crew, so go in and say, like, hey, can we do something else before we intubate them? Yeah. Do we really want to kill their respiratory drive that they're doing on their own so that we can handle it?
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Sometimes it's not worth it.
Again, having a good EMT, and for all you out there that are that are just an EMT.
I hate that. Oh God, I know how much I hate that.
For you EMTs out there, be a strong EMT. You see your paramedic, focusing in on something that is going to be as invasive as an intubation or an R.S.I intubation. Speak up. Hey, have we done everything we can do before you pull that trigger? Before you have me call on a radio and get that other medic here? Are you sure we've done everything? Just as simple as that.
It is as simple as that.
Absolutely.
And I think we touched base on it in one of our discussions, where the EMTs have to be given the confidence enough to be able to speak in those terms. But I think you, Emily, being as brilliant as you are, we can sit there and go, oh, okay, well, Emily, what do you think? And you'll be like, yeah, we've done this, we've done that, we've done that. You know what we can do. A lot of EMTs, they don't choose to know what we can do. They choose to know BLS, and that's it.
I have one that is exactly like that. Very nice person. Very, personable guy. Just does not seem to want to increase his skill level as an EMT.
But even without knowing that, I mean, I don't know all the protocols, even where I work for ALS providers. I'm a BLS provider. Right. Just speak up. Like, have we done everything?
Right. It's a simple thing. You don't even have to know the protocol.
Right.
Like, have we done everything before we do this?
Have we done everything? Is there anything else that anybody here can think of that we can do? In the hospital, when we do an arrest, before you call it, the doctor will say, and is there anything that anybody has that we can do?
Right.
It doesn't matter if it's the janitor. If they say something, we'll discuss it.
Yeah.
And I think that's lost in the EMS world because, again, everything is focused on paramedic heavy.
Yeah.
The paramedic is the god that knows everything, that is in control of everything as soon as they walk in the room.
Right.
But paramedics don't have all the answers sometimes. There's been plenty of times where I drop people off at the ER and I'm like, I have no fucking idea what I just dropped off. They were alive, they had a heartbeat and a good blood pressure, and that's all I care about. Right. Because what's wrong with them? Fuck if I know.
Well, no, I mean...
That's all you get.
That's all you get.
The one place I used to work, the local, I don't even want to say hospital, it was a critical access hospital. If you don't know what that is, it's basically a building that has...
An urgent care.
4 beds, 2 nurses, sometimes 1 nurse, and a doctor.
Usually a PA.
Usually a PA. In this case, we actually had a doctor. We actually had a couple doctors. But only one I would actually call a doctor. The other 2... I don't know, not so much. But Doc was one of those where, if I brought something in or somebody else brought something in, 9 times out of 10, just because they didn't have the manpower, or even if they got somebody on a walk-in and they didn't have the manpower, they would call us and have us come down and assist in the emergency room. And I've been there when Doc we're got this patient and septic as hell, and we've done everything. We got pressors going, we got all this other stuff. There's lines going every which way. It's mass hysteria. Dogs and cats are living together. And finally, at the end of it, before we decide that okay, we're gonna either fly this woman out to higher level of care to an actual facility, an actual hospital. Doc turned around and Doc I'm talking about. He turns around. He says, "Anybody else have any ideas in this room?" And I'm looking like, well. Did anyone ever put her on end tidal? He's like, awesome, quick, put her on end tidal. Because nobody, when we walked
there's
in,
no wrong
nobody
answers.
thought to
there's
do
no
that.
wrong answers, and that's what I'm going to urge the EMTs listening. There's no wrong answer.
Yeah,
just put it out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So moving the conversation along, I want to get into the whole sedation fiasco. I would say there's nothing worse in an RSI than even any intubation. Post RSI sedation is atrocious. Hospital sedation. Now, granted, I don't work in a hospital. My wife used to. My wife still goes in and does transports in and out of the hospital from RSI patients on a weekly basis. Literally, the first thing she does is give sedation.
More sedation.
Yeah.
Because she says 99 times out of 100 they are undersedated significantly.
100% agree with her.
Why do you guys think this is such an issue that EMS and hospitals either choose the wrong sedation? I mean, literally, I dropped off a patient at a hospital, and I said, here's the story. They've been hypotensive the entire time. They're on, they're going to need, pressors. Like, I had already had a pressor on, given them, 1,500 or 1,700 mLs of fluid. They're getting levofed, and I did not feel that they were, even with the use of ketamine as an induction agent, I did not feel they were resuscitated enough to be RSI'd, right? If I had RSI'd them, they were going to crash, no matter what. I tell all of this to the doctors, and the resident sits there and goes, okay, Versed sucks. What's the next thing that happens is 3 people are running by me because now they're doing CPR. I'm like, what the I just told you all this.
Yeah. I've had doctors where I've brought an intubated patient in, and sedation is starting to wear off, and they're starting to buck the tube, and I go to tell the doc, hey, patient's bucking the tube, you want me to give some sedation, or do you want to go give some sedation? And verbatim, the words that came back were, oh, I'll paralyze him before I sedate him.
That's a huge thing in the hospital. That is a huge thing. Guys, picture that you can't breathe already. You're panicked, you're sick, you're in pain, and now you're breathing through a tiny straw. That's what it's like to be intubated. It drives me insane because paralyzing them is not taking any of those feelings away.
Yeah, it only makes everything worse.
Absolutely.
Right? Because now, again, we go back to that thought process, and that imagine being a person who doesn't have the ability to breathe on their own, is breathing through a tiny straw on a machine, and you can't do anything about it, but your eyes are open and you are aware of everything.
And you're feeling everything.
Exactly. Yeah. Intubation is a horrifically painful process. Oh, yes. That's why we give post-sedation and pain management. And a lot of people don't ever give the pain management.
Yeah. And I've been questioned as to, literally, why? Oh, you gave 2 80 milligram doses of ketamine? Why did you do that? And I'm like, for ongoing sedation. Well, why did you give the second dose? Because I saw purposeful movement of his hand.
Yeah. Or, hey, you know what? I just want them to be comfortable.
Right.
And not feeling a freaking plastic tube down their throat.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a reason, too.
It's almost like they're surprised when we're like, yeah, I sedated them so they don't feel awake.
Which is amazing because pre-hospitally, I think, is notoriously terrible at sedating, at post-sedation. They just don't. And why is that? Are we not paying attention to our patient? Do we not recognize we're in the hypermetabolic state and maybe they're going through the meds faster, or, something's going on that they're either metabolizing it too fast or too slow or not the same way that we think it should happen? I don't know.
I think a lot of times, like, just from my own perspective, the weight-based dosing, unless you grew up as a carnival barker, I think lots of times we don't really get the weight right when we guess it.
We don't.
And then we go and we use a weight-based dosage for something that, we have no idea what their actual weight really is, and we undersedate. And I think from my perspective, the times I've done this and I've had to sedate or use any kind of weight-based medication, and I don't know what that patient's exact weight is, I always feel like, crap, I'm not going to give them enough.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I think a lot of times too, they're doing these weight-based drugs and they're giving it and they're saying, okay, well, that's what the weight is.
Right.
Not remembering that, like, this is a guess. I might be off.
Right.
And
pay attention.
Watch the patient.
But again, because we all suck, how many times have you been a part of something where someone goes, okay, how much do you think this patient weighs? And the first guy says, 100 kilos.
Oh, yeah.
No. That's good math, right? That's going to make math nice and easy with round numbers.
Right.
But they might weigh 80 kilos, or maybe they weigh 120 kilos, and you're just going, 100 kilos. No. Yeah. I think it would be awesome. Again, Stryker and Furno, if you're listening.
Pay attention.
Pay attention. I'm going to make you $1 billion, and you best give half to me. That's all I'm asking. Why don't we have the ability to put the zero weight thing like hospitals have they weigh their patient in the bed, right? Yep. Let me zero the weight before you put them on the freaking bed. Why don't we have that capability? Boom. Zero the weight before they sit on it.
No more guesswork.
Boom. No more guesswork.
I mean, you know
right?
why though? Because how long has it been that we've had weight-based drugs? In reality, it's coming more and more.
Yes.
So as practice is evolving, we're realizing that we can't have these standardized doses for every patient.
And a lot of it too is ideal body weight.
Yes.
So ideal body weight, the kilograms, what they weigh isn't going to matter. Right. It's how tall they are. Right. So, and I think a lot of providers forget certain meds in RSI are ideal body weight. Others are real body weight. I think a lot of people just go 100 kilos and it's fine. Right. But no, we actually have to figure out these formulas. These dosages and then utilize our cards because everyone should have an RSI card. My wife has to. It is a I guess a rule of the job that they have to know all of their RSI drugs by heart all the time, no matter what. I don't.
Yeah,
I don't. She does 3 a week. What was it? She did 6 RSIs in 3 shifts. It's 2 a shift.
Yeah.
I don't do 6 RSIs in 3 years. And I said that, and I was like, that's why I don't remember any of the doses.
That's why we have the cards.
I get the cards. I get my protocol app out. I go, okay, I want to give ketamine and sucks. Yeah. Here's what I need to figure out. Yeah, that's why it's a methodical pop. It's a process.
And playing on that card, I'm going to urge all you medics, like, why are you choosing the drugs you are? Because I can't tell you how many times I've asked on an RSI, and I'm like, well, what about, you want to use sucks, why not rock? And the answer that I get is sucks is easier to dose. That's a terrible answer.
That is an awful answer.
And we've had that conversation about one of the ones I did with you, and and my answer wasn't the dosing. It was I was always under the impression that it would be better
to paralyze for less amount of time.
To paralyze for less and just sedate so that the hospital can do their thing when we get there. Not really thinking that rock probably would have been the better option for the patient. So I have since changed my thought process and will be well aware of that the next time. And
I think a lot of it has to go with what's available at your agency. There's agencies that only carry sucks.
Yeah.
And there's agencies that only carry socks and rock rock, but no VAC.
No, like us.
A lot of people don't carry VAC.
And then there's the other place that I work that I have everyone.
Yeah, that was my first thing. I said, well, I don't have VAC, so I just went with the socks.
I think that sucks is in our area, the drug of choice for the paralytic.
I agree.
There's a lot of side effects that we don't really pay attention to.
And there's a lot of instances where we should not be using it. Not even just side effects, but all of the contraindications, even just a simple head injury, there's enough data out there that shows that sucks may increase ICP, but there's also not enough data out there that shows that it doesn't. So why are we not using rock or VEC for a head injury patient?
And you think about all the people that you guys have on our side, you two specifically, and how many are renal patients or diabetic or hypertensive or, whatever the case may be. And you have to be careful with sucks on these patients because of that potassium release.
Right. And
but it's never a thought in the mind.
But how many times don't we even know that when we're, by the time that we're deciding take over the airway?
Yeah.
Right? Maybe it's not something that you have the ability to ask.
Absolutely.
Right? We're protecting an airway on an unconscious person, but they're still breathing on their own. We still have to RSI them. We can't just intubate them. We don't know what their history is.
But think about that when you're going through meds. I mean, 1/3 of America has diabetes or something. And, think of all the kidney failure out there and look at your patient and don't just automatically go to sucks because that's, easier dosing or you know more about it. Find out about your meds, know your meds.
And it really, it's always what is the best for the patient.
Right.
Nothing is what's best for us. I think that's I think a lot of EMS providers believe that. It's like, oh, well, this will be easy to chart, it'll be easy to figure out. But are you doing what is in the best nature of your patient, right?
Yeah.
Are we sedating them? Are we looking for signs that, oh, look, there's a blood pressure spike, right? They were just trending 120 over 80, but now it's like 140 over 90. Are they, do you see a heart rate change, right? Are they breathing over the vent, right? Some people don't even have vents. We have terrible vents where we
I don't even use them. I just bag them.
Right? Yeah. I use them, but I use them very carefully. Yeah. Right? I am now on, peak 3,000 in watching my patient. I can't just sit back and do my chart anymore.
The few times I've tried to hook it up and get it to work properly to the point where I'm satisfied that it's doing a good job.
Is never.
I pulled it and ended up bagging the patient the whole way. Yeah, I know I can ventilate that patient the way I want them.
Yep.
And I can feel the compliance in the bag. I feel what's going on with my patient. If you give me a ventilator that I know is reliable and is going to do a good job, I'll use it. You give me one of the little things, I don't trust it, I'm not using it. I know I trust my hand.
Right. And a lot of times, those set it and forget it vents, you have no way of putting in the proper tidal volume for your patient.
Right.
It's just blowing holes in the lungs, and you're just hoping that it doesn't.
I'll just grab a fireman and say, here you go, squeeze that bag as hard as you can.
Yep. It really is. It's like, oh yeah, just there's 1,000 mLs in your lungs. Go. Great. So
I got chest rise.
Yeah, I got chest rise. Are you sure? So I want to flip in now. You have not done RSIs, Emily, but you've been a part of. I'm assuming many. I don't honestly know how many you've been a part of. I know that you and I have done our fair share. What is the worst and what's the best thing that you guys see from providers that you've worked with, or just from providers that you've talked to within the RSI realm? Let's start off with the worst thing that you guys have seen in the back with an RSI. I know I put you on the spot. It's terrible.
Well, no, for me, I at a previous agency where I was not the lead paramedic. I watched the intubation go through. Funny when we're talking about it, when I knew almost 100% that patient was not sedated properly. There was eye movement. There was some movement in the hands when the laryngoscope went in, and I called it out. Nobody listened. I was a brand spanking new paramedic.
What do you know?
Yeah, what do I know? I'm just going to sit here and shut the hell up. While this guy who's literally lives in bushes with a laryngoscope on his head waiting to jump out and tube someone is sitting there dropping a tube. Same one. I guess another bad thing is, and this is a great example of, hey, just because I'm a brand new, shiny card medic, I have that card for a reason. So same individual doing an intubation, doing an MFI, and puts a tube in, and okay, we're in, and I'm down with the stethoscope listening to the stomach, and I hear air, and I go to the lungs left and right, and I don't hear a damn thing. I look up at the end tidal, it's flat as a board. I said, no, you're not in. You're in the esophagus. No, I'm not. Yeah, man, you are. And it literally took me convincing, but it took probably 30 seconds to convince him that, based on everything that he was seeing, that he had missed, because he just doesn't miss.
Right, we all are gods at this.
We were pulling a tube, going through the whole rigmarole again, and it was, got him on the second try, but, again, you have, just because you have a new provider or an EMT or somebody, because an EMT can listen to epigastric sounds too. Mm-hmm. It doesn't take a genius to hear whoosh whoosh.
Yep.
You have someone that's telling you, hey, maybe you're not in, or verifying, hey, okay, you're good, you're in. Listen to the people around you. They're there for a reason.
One of the greatest practices that I always make the EMTs do. Yeah, I said it with our EMT. Tell me what's on the monitor.
Right.
Through the entire thing.
Yes.
Right?
Call the numbers out.
All they do after they're done with the card, and now I'm sitting there intubating, right? You've given the meds.
Yep.
You say, okay, 80 sucks just went in, or whatever it might be.
Yep.
Meds are good. Let's check.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have right, conditions for intubation. Now I'm focused on the intubation. All that EMT does is tell me blood pressure, because it's cycling every 3 minutes, right? So maybe it changes while I'm in there.
Right.
And I don't have end tidal on at that point in time, so that they can't tell me. But SpO2 and heart rate. Are they dropping bradycardic? Is there, did we not oxygenate enough pre-intubation?
Right.
Now they're dropping, super fast. That's all they do.
Yeah.
If I get a number that I'm like, oh, nope, I'm done. See you later, goodbye.
Yeah.
Let's resuscitate and try again.
Yeah.
That's a great job for someone who's just standing by doing nothing.
And you can put them, when I'm picturing an R.S.I, I'm picturing in the back of the ambulance. Put them at the foot of the stretcher where they're not really in the way. You guys are moving around. Put them down there. They can still read the monitor. They can still shout out these numbers.
Absolutely.
And it's something they can do without. Maybe it's a new EMT and they don't really know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
They can read the numbers on the screen.
And
Right.
I tell, especially new EMTs, when we're talking about intubating and stuff like that, and I introduce them to, this is the kind of stuff that you will be taking part in. There's always something for you to do.
Always.
Don't just stand there and be a bump on a log. At the very least, hey, you know what? You see the patient's head flat against the stretcher? Grab some towels. This is what sniffing position is.
Mm-hmm.
You guys can figure it out. You're at a sternal notch. Go ahead and put a couple towels over that head.
I can't tell you how many times somebody's gotten ready to intubate and I just lift the stretcher up
Yeah,
to 30 degrees.
absolutely.
Yep.
You're
Elevate
going
the
to
head
sit
of
there
the-
and bend your back down.
Right.
No, just move the stretcher up.
Elevate
Our
the
stretchers
stretcher.
move.
Right.
Yep.
We're
I
just smarter,
think
not
that's
harder.
a lot of old medicine. We intubate people when they're flat. No, we intubate people when they have 30 degrees head elevated or more.
Yep.
Right? Beautiful picture. Get all that, gravity off their chest.
Right.
It's beautiful.
It is.
So, Emily, let's go to you. Looking at that EMT perspective, what are you seeing that is a detriment, negativity in the RSIs you've been a part of?
So you kind of touched on it. The one, I can't tell you how many RSIs I've gotten kicked out of the ambulance for, and I think that you're not...
Because you're opinionated.
Probably. Way too opinionated. But you're not utilizing to the best of your abilities. Even if there's... The one that I had actually gotten kicked out of, I had a new EMT that was training with me, and give them the experience. We're never going to learn unless you let us do it. Put us at the foot of the stretcher, let us read the numbers. If you don't agree with something I'm saying, just tell me you don't agree with it and move on. At least you're thinking about it, and that's the point that I'm making. The one that I had gotten kicked out on, I suggested a different med. The medic didn't like it, and I was outside the ambulance. But, there's things that can be done. On that particular one, I told him to get the BVM. He didn't get the BVM. We never had a BVM when they're intubated. So, shame on us.
Yeah, and I think it's a great point that no matter what level provider you are on an RSI, you are part of my team, at least in the back of my ambulance. I don't care who the hell you are, as long as you're not family, you are back there with me doing something.
Absolutely.
Even if it's reading off of my checklist card. That's it.
Yeah.
That
That
enough.
and the monitor.
That and the monitor,
You
right?
have no idea how helpful that is.
It is to free me up from having to think about something else when I'm preparing myself going, okay, is this going to look like a bad intubation? How am I going to do this? Am I using video? Am I using direct? Why am I doing that?
What are the complications that I'm going to anticipate for this? What are, if I'm thinking of meds, what are my dosages? Am I sure those are right? Is this going to be enough? What are the potential side effects of that? There's too much going on.
There's way too much going on, and then you throw emotions on top of that because we're all human and we have them. This guy blew half his face off and I'm going to be aiming through blood to bubbles.
Right.
I'm puckering at that point going, please God, don't let me miss.
Yeah.
Right? So there's that whole thing that I'm dealing with. An EMT that can sit there and take all of the stuff that I don't have to worry about away from me, I love them.
Yeah.
It disappoints me that paramedics shun them like they're garbage or trash or useless.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, too, is for all the providers out there, you have to remember that you are there for the patient. So I don't have to like all my partners. I don't care. I am there for the patient. So just do what is in the best interest of them.
Yeah, and I would say, even if things do get heated or whatever, like again, you're only as strong as your weakest link. You're gonna have another call. You can't harbor animosity. You can't stew on it. You got to get over it and just move on. If you've been yelled at, or I know I've been yelled at plenty of times. You just it was in the heat of battle. We're moving on from here.
Yep.
It's
but
that team concept, right? Exactly.
Learn from it and listen to what these people are
saying.
saying.
Have a discussion about it.
Exactly.
And that's the big thing. Learn from it.
Yeah.
Grow as a team as providers. Be like, hey, what did we do that was bad, good, ugly, whatever? Why did we fight? Right.
Yeah.
I think going to the last of what can we do better during RSIs is pre-RSI management. So not so much how did we get to the RSI, but we have to be thinking resuscitation pre-intubation. So many providers out there will sit there and go, oh yeah, they're the best that I can get their SpO2 is 90 or 88. It's just good enough. I gotta intubate them. No, find a way to get it above 90, 92, 93, 95.
Yeah.
Right? Get as high as you possibly can, even if it takes 10 minutes longer.
Yeah.
Right? Make sure they have a damn good blood pressure, please.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
How many times have we sat there and watched people do an intubation when they're 80 over 40? They don't have pressors running. They've only been given 300 of fluid. Take time to resuscitate your patient.
Right.
Because if you
prepare their body for the experience.
Absolutely.
Exactly. That's all you're doing.
Absolutely.
There's a brilliant way to put it. If you don't prepare the body for the bradycardia that's going to happen, for the hypotension that's going to happen due to the drugs, and the sheer stress of an intubation and paralyzation, you're just going to be doing pushy anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
So why are we taking that chance and not preparing the body for it? Take the extra time. This is not rapid. I wish they would go back to the medical facilitated intubation, because it's not RSI at all.
Right.
There's nothing rapid about it.
MFI is a better. I think it's a better
way better
term
term
for it. It just
doesn't sound good.
Use the RSI model. Don't do the MFI model, because that's just a waste of time. But yeah, just swap them around, or get rid of the one and let's just do this one way with this one acronym and be done with it.
Yep.
But as far as like things that I think are good to do during RSI, and I know just because it's me, verbalization, delegating, the roles in advance. Hey, okay, I'm on drugs, you're on airway, EMT, you're gonna be bagging. Give me one breath every 5 seconds. And yeah, I know they know how to bag somebody, but just to get that out there so everybody is on the same page, we know that we're breathing 1 every 5, because eventually I'm going to say I need you to bag 1 every 3 now, because we're going to pre-oxygenate, we're going to hyperventilate the patient, get that wash out, because when I go in, it might take me a little bit.
Right.
I might not just go, oh, there it is, and throw it right in like Ahab, but I think verbalization, keeping that team cohesiveness, I think that's a big part of it. Is like I said, when I'm drawing up meds, everyone knows what I'm drawing up. Everyone knows the dose I'm drawing up. Everyone's hearing me. So I think that I think goes a long way in keeping everybody on the same page and everyone knowing what their role is going to be.
How about you, Emily?
So I think the one thing that we could do better is education. And I think that we need to do more of it. So I know, if you have an RSI, you do an RSI class, say, every year. But we need to be doing more of that. And included, so where I work, our RSI class is only attended by medics. And I think that's a huge disservice to half of our agency, because there's an EMT on this call too.
Absolutely.
So I push and push and push to have a BLS RSI class. But even if not, put the BLS providers in the RSI. Educate them, expose them. The more that we're exposed to it, the better off we're going to be for you guys.
And that's it. Really, the exposure,
let them get familiar with seeing what equipment we're going to be using, and I mean, I remember I was on one where we were getting everything ready, and I was doing drugs. The paramedic was doing airway, or the other paramedic was doing airway. We'd gotten everything out, and the EMT went, "Hey, you guys forgot your tube holder." Mm-hmm. Oh shit! Yeah, that would kind of suck if we don't have a way to hold this in place. So yeah, if they know that, hey, there should be a tube holder there, but there isn't one. Hey, paramedic, talents on loan from God. Yeah, you should. You get your tube holder out.
It's from God. Only half the population will get that reference. Right, but anyhow, I think you both are on. I love communication. You and I, in ours, that's all we heard. That I think that calm feeling though needs to be there, right? This is a facilitated process. We're not rushing, even if the circumstances say, "Oh my God, this is bad." We still shouldn't be rushing, right? People call us to make sure that when shit hits the fan, there's someone calm and not running around like a maniac. There's been too many times where I've had to literally grab hold of the other paramedic and been like, "Stop it. Mm-hmm. If you keep going like that, I am going to slap the shit out of you. Stop it." Right? Bring that calm. You and I, literally our EMT was like, that was the calmest, smoothest, quietest, other than us discussing what we were going to do.
Yeah, there was no extraneous BS.
There was nothing, right? That should be every single one, no matter what. You watch my wife do them with the air medical. That's how every single one is done. It's just calm. Bring the calm. I wish more people, more providers would do that. And
one thing that somebody told me when I had first started EMS is to always remember to keep calm and that it's their emergency, not yours.
Yeah.
So you have to own that. This is not about you. So just relax. You need to help them. We got this.
Yeah, and take that, advice for every aspect of the job. Driving to scenes.
Yes.
Especially if it's dispatch priority 1 or, Delta response, whatever you're, wherever you are, whatever the lights and sirens classification is, slow your roll. It's their emergency, not yours. Just be cool.
Yeah. You've heard it 1,000 times. How are you going to help if you don't make it there?
Yeah, if we don't get there, we ain't doing nothing.
How are you going to help if you're running around like a maniac on scene going, "Oh my God, this is bad." Yeah, that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Yeah, or you jump out of the rig, grab the monitor, and tear off into the house, and it's like, "Oh yeah, I forgot everything else."
Mm-hmm. Yep. Like my partner. Where's my partner? Oh shit! Now I'm stuck in the house.
Right.
That actually happened to where this will be the last story. I went in with my partner to a house because, of course, I don't leave my partner anywhere.
Correct.
But then the homeowner locked the door behind me. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah, not cool.
That's my direction of egress? No. They were like, well, we lock it. We live in the city. We lock it. I was like, I don't care. As long as I'm in this house, that door stays unlocked.
Oh, yeah, that's fun.
And they were like, well, no. I said, all right, well, then I'm going to call PD and I'm going to wait outside. That's a scene safety issue. Sorry, not happening. Right? Yep. It's just always keep the calm.
Yeah, just slow your roll. Again, knowing it's an R.S.I. is going to be a procedure. You're going to be there for 10 to 15 minutes, hopefully 15 minutes, maybe sometimes more, depending on, like I said, if it takes long to get the saturation up or, get a pressor going to get the BP up. Hey, we're going to be here a while, so settle in, smoke them if you got them, relax. Well, don't smoke them because we got, oxygen flowing, but, think about a nice, cigarette and a cup of coffee and sunny
get
beach, palm tree swaying in the wind. Go to your happy place.
We have happy places.
Yeah, I don't. Mines are terrifying. but yeah, you just have to, you have to find that inner peace where time just kind of slows down a little bit and you focus on your tasks. Checklist usage, I can't stress enough. Doing R.S.I.
Amazing.
Oh yeah, I love it.
Amazing.
In my previous life, we lived and died by checklists.
Mm-hmm.
So this is an R.S.I. is definitely something that, break the checklist out, keep it out before you do the intubation, review it, and make sure you've done everything on it.
It's a perfect, as I said 4 times in this whole conversation, give it to your EMT. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Give it to the freaking fireman standing outside. Give it to a PD officer.
Yeah.
Right? I don't care who you give it to. Have them sit there and go, step 1.
Yeah.
What am I doing?
Yeah.
Step 2. Okay, step 1's done. What step 2 do I need to do it?
Yeah.
That's all you have to do.
Like
When
I
you
said-
get to step 10 and that's your last step, cool. I'm good. We can proceed.
Yeah.
Right?
And at the end, like I said, in my previous lives, we used to call them checklists and not do lists. So do what you got to do, but then stop at the end and check. Make damn sure, in God we trust, everything else we check. That should be our motto when it comes to doing RSIs.
I agree. That's the way it should be taught.
Yep.
It'd be great.
And just one last thing. It just kind of dawned on me.
5 last things ago.
Yes, yes, I know, right? My digression knows no bounds. And this was an experience I had doing an RSI, not in the too distant past. And it goes along with what you'd said in the beginning about fear. I hate to use the term fear factor, but
Great show.
if I'm not eating any of that stuff. But if you are a provider and you feel that you've gotten in over your head, or you feel some kind of anxiety level or fear or something that is going to prevent you from doing your job, say something. Say so. Hey, I can't do this.
Don't be a hero.
Don't.
Because you're just gonna fuck it up.
And don't take up space. I had one where the expectation was for this provider to do the airway, and looked up after pushing the drugs, and the provider was no longer at the airway, was sitting on the bench doing nothing. Never heard a word. Say something, please. If no one's going to yell at you, no one's going to freak out. We'll talk about it later and try to find out why you
and
ended up in
improve
this
on
place.
Yeah.
Right, and to get you over it and get you
Learn
past
from
it.
it.
Yep.
If you're with good people, and I think we're all kind of good people, and we would try to help that person get past it. But and if I know there's people who are not so good people, but
The majority, I think want to
understand.
Yes,
Yeah.
they understand because it might happen to them somewhere.
Right. So don't be afraid. If you do have that level of fear or that anxiety, or any reason that I can't do this or I'm in over my head, say something. Speak up. We'll figure out a way. So.
I agree. With that, I'm going to slide in and cut you off and say, Happy New Year, everybody. We'll see you in 2021. Gerard, you wish it would be better than 2020.
Yes, I do.
I would hope so as well. Guys, stay safe out there, and we'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you'd like more information on the podcast or to send us a call to review, visit medicmaterials.com/podcast. To learn more information, like us on Facebook at Medic Materials EDU, or watch our weekly instructional videos on the Medic Materials YouTube channel.